I was like, Jamie, do you remember the time when you came to my house and you asked me if I could do that against real energy? And I said, why don't you try something? And it took me like 3 seconds to throw them on the floor, totally controlled. I was like, I could do that 500 times out of 500 with nearly anybody in the world who's not maybe a professional trained martial artist, right? And I could do it with some of them, not all of them. Right? I'm not the best fighter in the world, and I'm not doing this to fight. I just do it to do something with my body and with my mind and to learn things from cool mentors that are progressive in skill. And I think the body is beautiful. The body is beautiful when it's trained to do beautiful things. And that's for a dancer, for a singer, for somebody that plays piano. The body can be beautiful, and the mind can be beautiful too, but they need to be trained. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, I could do that 500 times out of 500 and it would not matter what you did. And the reason is because I'm practicing basic things over and over and over and over and over again. And therefore, minute changes in energy I can control and react to. And in Kung Fu, for example, right, we use tactile reflexes. Once we're touching, when you're not touching, you can't do that because you can't sense somebody with touch sense who's like 10 feet away. Maybe you could feel their energy, but you can't feel the direction of their body, right? You need to touch. Well, your tactile senses have a faster reaction network in the brain than visual senses do. Your visual senses, they have to come in. They are processed through the retina. Your brain then takes them and turns them upside down, then flips them right side up, and then it comes back into your sensory awareness, and then you process the information. And therefore, reflexes with your visual senses are actually quite slow. The visual sense is not there. It's not the best system for reflexes. It's actually the best system for learning and for remembering things. But for reflexes, touch works better, right? Audio works better. The things that you do work better. Action works better. And so I can react. The actual reaction time is about 200 times faster with touch senses than it is with sight. Well, I know that because I study the brain, right? It's like 200 times faster. But at the time somebody sees something, I've already initiated a movement. It doesn't mean I move 200 times faster. It means the reaction time from sensory input to energy output, the reaction time is actually, it's like virtually instantaneous. So what does this have to do with why I'm making this video? Well, I do something repetitious, right? Thousands of times and thousands of times and thousands of times, and then I can do it against any incoming energy, which is like talking to people on the phone. It's like interacting with audience building and social media. It's like building a list, right? If you just do it and do it and do it and do it and do it, you develop a sort of unconscious awareness of all possibilities at the same time when you're doing that certain skill over and over and over and over and over. Jose's just doing videos. He's just doing videos and he's just doing videos. And you just see them getting better and better and better and better. Well, eventually, and this has already started now, he's going to start doing things that are outside of his conscious awareness, but it's new forms of things because he's developed a sort of holographic network of information in his brain to manipulate, and is going to have an intuition on what to do and what not to do to make the video look in the best way all the time. That's skill, right? So if you want to learn something, if you want to get good at something, you need to master some basic skills. You don't need to learn everything. You don't need to learn all the things that are available online, and you couldn't anyways because it changes too fast. And truthfully, most of it's not useful or profitable, right, to do anyway. You know, I was talking to my friend and I was like, I have this group and they're getting 100% success. Like 100% are successful because they know how to get somebody in. And the reality is when you can get people in whenever you want, you can create whatever income you want. And when you can create whatever income that you want, the only thing is like, well, what do you want? Right? And if you can choose just the life that you want based on what you want, not based on, you know, if you look around, it's like, well, I could choose the life that I want by lots of different criteria, right? But if it's like, if you could have whatever you want, my question is then what is that, right? What is that and what are you willing to do it? And here's a few basic things, right? Number one thing that you want to do is you want to decide that you're going to focus. Number two thing you want to do is actually focus and follow through. Number three, focus on the basics, right? And the basics of building a business that has anything to do with people are all the same, but you might have different ways of doing those things that are basic. But when you learn them in one context, you can just take the context and you can transfer it. One context, for example, for connecting, selling might be one-on-one, in person. Well, the same skill applies in front of groups, but you would do it in a slightly different way. The same skill would apply one-on-one in a conversation, but you'd do it in a little bit of a different way. The same skill might apply in a Zoom hangout, but you do it in a little bit of a different way. But I'm going to tell you something, and this is just the truth, for building businesses, for meeting people, nothing beats in person, right? I'm not talking for recruiting. I think there's lots of more effective ways to recruit if you're doing that with marketing. I think the phone is a better way to recruit. I think social media plus the phone is a superior way than that, right? And I think that once you learn some skills, you can do unlimited things, right? But for relationships, for a connection between two human beings, nothing beats in person. Could you meet and keep a marriage together? And I'm not a marriage expert. Just ask my ex-wives, right? But you know, the reality is that could you keep that relation together if you never touched each other ever, and you just were seeing each other through videos now? Now, obviously, the relationship you're going to build with affiliates, with reps, it's going to be a little bit different than that. But the reality is this: the simple reality is nothing beats in person, which is why events are important. It's why masterminds are important. It's why when you gather face to face, you form a different kind of connection, a different kind of knowledge. And you model things out a little bit differently. Like, for example, somebody who studies golf will actually just get better at golf by watching somebody play golf. And they'll get even better than that watching them in person. And why is that? It's because the brain mirrors information. It actually has a kind of neuron in the brain. You have a kind of neuron in the brain. It's called a mirroring neuron. A mirroring neuron, it just sees movement. It hears something. It's observing a behavior, and it just automatically starts replicating that behavior. So with me doing mgtow with Omar every day, my years of experience can be compressed in his body, because his body and mind will just start doing these things automatically because I'm doing them. And because I'm doing them and he's feeling them, his body will replicate it. I can mgtow with Sifu Fernandez, who's got decades of experience more, and I'm not going to be able to be better than him because he's got so much more experience. However, and this is the important thing, is that I can speed up. You can speed up the learning curve with a mentor. And so you want to master the basics, and then you want to find a mentor. So you want to decide to focus. You want to actually focus. You want to master the basics, and you want to find a mentor, and that's it. Right? So you're like, well, what are the basic things? It's like, number one, you got to build an audience. Number two, you got to turn that into a predictable, consistent, incoming building list, right? You know, if you take a look at offline network marketing, like somebody like Eric Worre at Network Marketing Pro, and you say, how does he do that? Well, he always talks about building your list. Now, he's building his list through personal relationships. Guys, a list is a list. And a responsive list is the kind of list that you want. But if you're not building it, it'll degrade, because as all things in life, things that don't grow begin to degrade. So you've got to build your list all the time. So on the internet, we're talking about building a list. On offline, they're talking about building a list. Really, you're just building a list, right? But what you really want is you want to network with that list. You want to build communities with it. And to do that, you need to have social power with that. The way that you do that is by giving value. Like, for example, in this video. You're watching this video, you're listening, you can tell I know what I'm talking about in this context, right? I said, I'm not a mentor in all contexts. I need mentors for different areas in my life to make them better, or they'll stay the same. But in certain contexts, I'm very powerful. I know lots of things that most people don't know. And I know that if you build responsiveness with your audience, no matter who that audience is, when you want to build a business, you're going to have a constant set of resources to connect to build that. So audience building is not just for the internet. Audience building is a fundamental skill to building any kind of business that you want to build. Next, you've got list building, which is building connected relationships with segmented parts of that audience that are responsive and want to work with you, which we do on the internet in the form of email. We do that in person in the form of like Rolodexes, right? But really, you should just build an email list. You should build a contact list with phone numbers, with people that you're connected to. And a very small responsive list is more powerful than a big list. I was showing somebody something the other day, and I was like, how many emails could I send to replace this amount of phone calls? And they looked at it, and it's like, well, none, right? And that's the truth. One time I got a book. It was by, I think it was a company, Burns Insights, and it's called Scaling Up. It's about how to take his company and scale it up. And in the book, he has an email address, and he says, send me an email to get on my list. And so I was like, okay, because I always get on lists, and I read things from thought leaders. And I got on his list, and he sent me a personal note the next day actually researching what I do. And I was like, wow, here's a man who understands. He understands the power in building an audience, building a relationship, building responsiveness, and getting people to connect with that are leaders and thought leaders, and then working with those people because his business depends on that, right? So audience building is permanent. The next thing that's a permanent skill is recruiting and sales, right? Which really, sales is a form of recruiting, and recruiting is a form of sales. You're either recruiting a customer, you're recruiting a rep. But I like to recruit evangelists. And so if you just take a look at that, if you take a look at the expansion of kingdoms, the expansion of empires, the expansion of businesses, right? If you take a look at that, what you really want to do is you want to recruit people that turn into thought leaders. And anybody could be a thought leader, but they need mentoring, and they need guidance, and they need to master the basics, right? And I like to look at things like Jesus of Nazareth, like Buddha, religious thought leaders through the history of time. Like you take Jesus, 12 people. I mean, how many people have those 12 people? Even if you don't believe in that, how many people has those 12 people turned into? It's like billions, right? So 12 people turned into a billion. That's a kind of leader that created leaders. That's a kind of leader that mentored other leaders, that turned into an expanding kingdom, like a stone rolling off a mountain, right? Gathering momentum, smashing things in the way, and that's the kind of thing that you want to do. And a lot of people, they look at it and they want to say, I want to recruit the leader. I just want to recruit the leader. All I want is to recruit the leader. And you're like, okay, I've got it. I could recruit leaders too, but let me ask you a question. Did Jesus do that? Is that what Buddha did? No, they made them, right? Was Peter a leader? Was Peter a leader when Jesus came and he said, I want to make you a fisher of men? No. He was a fisherman. He was not a leader, right? He became a leader through mentoring. And that's something important to understand. And how many people have been impacted by that? Well, at least 1 billion people living today, regardless of whether that's your belief or you have a different belief, right? So in other words, you don't just necessarily recruit a leader. You need to learn to build them, and you build a leader by helping them focus, stay focused, master the basics, and get mentored. And those are all the things you want to do. So you have recruiting and sales, which are really the same thing in different forms, right? I recruit into my business the same way my brother does personal one-on-one sales. The process and the methodology, and we learned it from different places, is actually the same, but we use the same thing in different contexts. And then you have coaching. Coaching is foundational skill. You have coaching, and you need to learn how to coach people, which is really you're taking where they are and helping them go where they need to be. And you do not need to know all the skills of where they need to be in order to get them from here to there, but you do need to be able to elicit resources, find out what they want, find out exactly how that is, and then get them on a path and be able to keep them in check, right? Like a rocket is not headed to the moon, is not aimed at the moon most of the time. It's off track 99% of the time. And if you realize that it's off track most of the time, here's the thing, right? NASA needs to correct that. But the NASA specialist who's sitting there at the home base correcting the rocket, right? They're not on the rocket. They're just helping it get the right place. That's what a coach does, right? So you need to learn coaching. You need to learn group coaching and outcome coaching, right? Actually speaking, you want to be a professional speaker? That's like labs, right? But if you learn these things, you learn mentoring, and then there's synergy, right? Synergy is what? Synergy is the alignment of things, the alignment of force, right? If you're asking, how do I hold off those big bodybuilders, right? It's alignment of force, right? I'm taking systems inside my body and I align them to be more powerful than any of those systems are on their own. And they're fighting with strength against the tendons and against the heart structures inside my body that I've also learned to use and manipulate through thousands of hours of one-on-one time getting feedback from masters, right? Therefore, I can do strange things with my body. Those strange things are not magical. They are a mastery of the basics, which appear magical to the untrained mind. Therefore, there's only a few things you need. You need to decide what to focus on. You need to stay focused. You need to master the basics, and you need a mentor. And if you do that, then that brings us to the power of synergy, which is the next thing. Synergy is what? Synergy is the alignment of forces, or the alignment of minds, the alignment of visions, the alignment of things, right? You put two poles together in construction and then put pressure on the top. Two is dramatically more powerful than if you take one and add another one with the math. It multiplies the force, and that's called synergy in architecture, right? And the body can do synergy, the mind can do synergy, but human beings can do synergy together. And what synergy is between human beings, synergy between human beings is called a mastermind, and Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And yes, I'm free-flowing, and there I have no notes. My teleprompter is actually over there. You saw that earlier in this video. I'm just free-flowing here, and these are the things that you learn. And so here's my question. My question is what do you want to focus on? Are you focused on that now? Are you actually a master of the basics? Or are you trying to get into constant learning mode to avoid action when really the only thing that's ever going to produce income is action? That's a part of focus. It's like, what should you focus on? They always talk about income-producing activities. Well, if you're doing something to make income, you should make sure that that thing is going to make you income, right? Is it going to or not? Like in my business, there are certain things that make income, and most of the things that I could possibly think of doing, and the most things that I do won't make income. And you can take almost all your energy and waste it, and waste that energy on things that don't produce the income that you want. But if you take all of that energy and you put it on income-producing things, soon you're going to have more energy, because energy, right? Energy could come in lots of ways. It could come in the form of time. It could come in the form of money. It could come in the form of resources, which can include people. It can include things. It can include technology, right? And money expands resources and is a powerful form of leveraged energy that you can use to act on the world and to not be acted upon to control your destiny. And that's, my friend, what you can do. So have you decided to focus? Are you focused on those things? Have you mastered the basics, and do you have a mentor? And if you haven't done any of those things, go back to number one. What are you going to focus on? Number two, are you focused now? Number three, have you mastered all of the basics, or do you need to start with the first one? Unless the first one is actually building an audience, which is what we do. Now, if you're watching this video and you're not a part of our community, you could just get back with the person who sent you to this video and say, how could I become a part of the community and master the basics to do new things? Because we will empower people, and we will take this and it will expand through generations of time all over the world, lifting people up and empowering them to create personal freedom. And personal freedom is not the same thing as national freedom and world freedom. Personal freedom is the ability to make choices independent, right, of being dictated from forces around you. You're making choices because you want to make those choices, and that can come in lots of forms, and the form that you can make those choices is actually a form of energy, right? Time, money, resources, relationships. If you have the power to make choices, and then you could think, and you could look out at the city, and you can stare up at the stars, and you could see the moon as it's rising in the sky, and you could say, what is my destiny, right? You can choose. You can choose. Choosing is a powerful thing. So my friends, I just decided to make this a daily shortcut episode. If you're watching this on the episode, right, you might be seeing this on my Facebook wall, but if you're seeing this on the episode, go ahead and put your email in below, and I'll give you an audio and I'll give you a workbook of this. And of course, if you're seeing this on Facebook, I spontaneously made this and decided to do it, feeling inspired by speaking with a mentor of mine one-on-one and asking him some powerful questions. So my question is, are you focused? Do you know what to focus on? Are you focused? Have you mastered the basics? And are you getting mentoring? And if you're getting mentoring, do you have a mastermind? And if you've got those 5 things, my friend, the only thing that will stop you from creating things, from creating things is being aligned in the wrong direction, right? If you're aligned in the right direction, all barriers, period, all of them can be broken. Racial barriers can be broken. Ask Martin Luther King Jr., and I would actually have you ask him, except for he died for the cause and still accomplished it, right? Still accomplished it, right? It can break through racial barriers. It can break through financial barriers. It can break through poverty barriers. It can break through technological barriers. Just look at all the technological barriers that have been advanced. But the most beautiful barrier of all that I see happen all the time is when people break through the limitations on barriers that are self-imposed because they're believing and aligned with things that aren't really showing them how powerful and how wonderful they can be, my friends. Take action on yourself. And if you take action on yourself, you're going to realize that you, my friend, are a beautiful creation and have the power to take dominion and to change things. Yeah. So why don't you do that? Love you. You're awesome.